Welcome back. You're now watching the political segment on the Weekend Show. With exactly 7 weeks to the presidential election and 2023 elections, here are certain things I've observed. I've seen the APC presidential candidate go to Kano and speak for just about 1 minute, only to see him last night dancing at the APC Youth Wing event in Abuja. For people who have wanted to be in such a position for so long, they now have a chance on the platform, but we aren't hearing anything. Like I said earlier, I've seen the Labour Party, which is the third force, have two of replaced their director general, and we've also had the National Publicity Secretary come on this show to make allegations about the party. For the People's Democratic Party, however, we've heard people complain about the fact that their candidate is always in Dubai when he wants to rule Nigeria. However, something happened in the last couple of weeks. The former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, endorsed the Labour Party candidate Peter Obi. Also, Edwin Clark of the South South also endorsed Peter Obi. The Benue State governor, in a statement, seemed to be endorsing, even though it wasn't directly from him, the Labour Party candidate. And so this makes us wonder, are there any problems within the PDP, even Ohaneze Ndigbo and Afe Babalola? However, we've had a lot of people say that the people will decide the 2023 elections. And we've also had some brilliant young minds who have actively pushed and supported the PDP machinery and their messaging. Last week we had the Labour Party, and today we do have representatives from the PDP, while next week we will be having people from the APC. So joining us we have
Onoja Ilamana, who is a legal practitioner and public affairs analyst. Good morning, welcome back to the show. Happy New Year. And of course, we also have Somto Onuchuku. Happy New Year, welcome to the show. He's a spokesperson, PDP New Generation.
Thank you.
Let's start with Somto. Happy New Year to both of you.
Happy New Year, Andy.
I like what the PDP New Generation is doing because they've gone beyond the noise of the people who are elder statesmen and the people who claim they have the structure. And in the last 6 years or so, you guys have just had your own voice supporting the PDP consistently. But with what I see going on with the G5 governors, with all this endorsement, is all well with the PDP and your presidential campaign?
Thank you so much, Andy, for asking that question. 100% all is not well, but at least 90-something% all is well. Why I say this is because the PDP is a party built on democratic principles. Men or single or few people don't control what we do, or they don't decide for majority. It's the majority in PDP will always have its way. In our primaries, I was one of those that supported throwing the ticket open. The reason why I supported that is because I believe that all organs of the party, because we are in opposition, all organs of the party should be involved in choosing our flag bearer so that we can all work together to make that person our leader. You saw what happened in Oyo State some days ago when the G5 governors went to endorse Seyi Makinde and also try to push Atiku aside in their campaign. The people were screaming, Atiku, Atiku. It's the majority. They will always have their way. The power blocks in PDP will work for the victory of the party. Then coming to the G5, you saw the regalia they wore in Oyo. It had the PDP logo on it. Otom also reinstated their commitment to the party. They are not fighting the PDP. They are only negotiating. We have to understand that. And a few weeks ago, I said on a radio show, if anyone is still wearing the PDP logo and regalia, the person is already campaigning for PDP. Atiku's name is not going to be on the ballot. It is that logo and PDP that is going to be there. So all is not well because of the disagreement and negotiation that is going on. And I believe we are going to reach an agreement very soon. But all is well because majority of the party members are with the candidate and they are going to work for
this agreement you speak about. The elections are 7 weeks away. When or how is it going to happen?
Like I said, The agreement, whether it happens or not, it will not affect our chances significantly.
How sure are you?
I'm certain, just like I explained, our party is built on democratic principles. Most PDP power blocks will work for the victory of Atiku Abubakar. Otom is running for Senate. Governor Ipazu of Abia State is running for Senate. Seyi Makinde is running for governor. The other G5 guys, most of them are running for Senate as well. That election is going to hold on the same day with Atiku's election. And Atiku's name is not going to be there. It's that logo. None of them will ever tell anybody to vote any other thing but the logo of PDP. The logo is important, and the name, PDP. If you remember in 2019, do you know the party that came third? Many people forgot that party. Some will say it's Mohalo, some will say it's Sowore. It wasn't Sowore, it wasn't Mohalo. It was Durutoye, even though they were popular at the time. But a party, I think PRP or so, PCP, came third in that election just because their logo looked like PDP's logo. That is how elections are won. So when you say affect our chances, every party has their issues. Just like you pointed out, Andy, that Labour Party MP, the public secretary has been here to complain. They are having issues of money also in their party, But the PDP is there. It's a national party with a national spread. I believe that has answered the question. Thank you so much.
Ilemona, the endorsement we've seen, President Olusegun Obasanjo, who worked closely with Vice President Atiku Abubakar, stating clearly, and he has said this over time, coming out to support Peter Obi, and the other endorsements we've seen in the last 10 days. What's your take on this, and does this have any impact on the coming elections?
For the politically aware, these endorsements are not new. Everybody is known for a while that former President Olusegun Obasanjo was working for an Obi candidature. Everybody's known that for a while. Pandev, not new. Middle Belt Forum, not new. Ohaneze Ndigbo, it's not new. What's his name now? Okay, that was the new one.
Yes. Edwin Clark.
Edwin Clark, not new. These positions were taken a while ago. So, rehashing it at this time, maybe is being done strategically to create a perception of a new momentum. Now, anybody who says that an endorsement from somebody like President Olusegun Obasanjo is not noteworthy is lying or is naive. And I will not lie, and I'm not naive. As a two-time president of this country, as one of the most internationally connected people from this country, an endorsement from him is a significant issue. It's a significant thing. But there are two things. One, the most important endorsement for anybody is going to come on the 25th of February. It's going to come in response to your messaging. It's going to come in response to your campaign. It's going to come in response to the promises you make to the Nigerian people, to the policies you put before the Nigerian people, to how you align your interest to their interest. That's where the most important endorsement is going to come. We've seen big ticket endorsements come in this country over the years, and people who were endorsed by those big tickets did not win the elections. We've seen that happen, right? One. Two, the most important thing, there are two things that were contained in President Obasanjo's public endorsement. There are two things that were contained in that letter. There was the objective fact, the very objective fact of APC's failure in government. It's in that letter. It's based on facts, globally accepted matrix, indices, and whatever standards of measurement. We have record unemployment, we have record insecurity, record disunity, record lack of access to health, record lack of access to education, record breakdown of infrastructure, debt like we have never seen in this country before, foreign and local. We have a depreciation of our institutions. I mean, the failure is monumental and it is all-encompassing. Now, that is objective fact. And on that, I don't know that anybody can disagree with President Olusegun Obasanjo. Nobody can do that. But once you leave that, you enter into the subjective. President Olusegun Obasanjo is on record as saying former Vice President Atiku, and our candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, is the best placed person to lead this country out of the doldrums. He's on record saying that. He's on record commending our candidate Atiku Abubakar in the most glowing terms, where he says there's nobody with the sort of international network that he has. He's the person who is aware. He's the most experienced candidate. Where he's the person who was, with him being President Olusegun Obasanjo, the two of them led Nigeria out of military rule and out of the bad days of the military and put Nigeria firmly on the path to growth and development. He's on record saying that. There are videos, there are all sorts of videos all over the place. And he didn't say that in only once. He went around this country and said that several times. Now, the question that I will ask, and this is why it is subjective, do all those things he said suddenly not apply? Of course not. Of course not. Is Atiku Abubakar no longer the most connected person in the race? Of course not. Is Atiku Abubakar no longer experienced? Of course not. Is Atiku Abubakar no longer capable of putting this country back on the path of socio-economic development? Of course not. So this is the PDP message. Yes, we've heard President Olusegun Obasanjo, and we take that into consideration. But the ball is in the court of the Nigerian people. Think about it. Compare records. And I will give you an example. Nigeria, I'll give you two examples, very quickly, that are reflective of where we are at the moment. Nigeria grew, our GDP grew by 0.58% in 1999. 2000, 5%. 2001, 5.6%. 2002, 15%. 15.3 actually. 2003, 7.6%. 2004, 9.6%. Who was chairman of the National Economic Council in that period of time? Atiku Abubakar. Nigeria's economy is stagnated, growing at a meager 2%. Our population growth outstrips our economic growth. So even though we're growing on paper, we're actually growing backwards. Right? When you take into consideration where we are economically, why won't we go back to the person who actually has the experience, and I'll end somewhere, who actually has the experience of growing an economy and bringing it out of this sort of morass? One, let me end here. Two, when the military came into power, when the PDP came into power in 1999, we didn't have an understanding of what our debt profile was. We didn't know who we owed. We didn't know how much we owed. We didn't know where the monies were applied. Nothing. Right? It was at the instigation at a meeting in Washington, a World Bank annual conference, that Atiku Abubakar began the process for the establishment of the Debt Management Office. And then they put the framework that established that and domiciled the Debt Management Office in the office of the Vice President. So between 1999 and 2007, he was in charge, he was supervising our debt management model.
So I don't even want you to end. I want to follow up with this question, because my question was, we'll give credit to the PDP for debt cancellations and reduction and the growth in the economy and GDP during their time, which you have stated that it was under the supervision of Vice President Atiku. Besides that, can you tell us three other things that Vice President Atiku, as an individual during his time in power, is known to have contributed to the improvement of this country? Not the party now, this person as an individual.
Thank you so much. I was hoping for such an opportunity. Yes. One, our premier anti-corruption agency, EFCC, was responsible for the recruitment of the first pioneer EFCC chairman, Alhaji Nuhu Ribadu, was responsible for the first seed funding EFCC got, 300 million. Responsible for it. One. Two, UBEC. Very, very involved in the establishment of the UBEC Act that ensures, that sets out a minimum that every Nigerian child should receive at least free education to at least GS3. Very involved. Now, these things are very important. UBEC is actually very important, seeing as we're facing an out-of-school crisis. That's why it's important to mention that. Three, you oversaw the telecom sector reforms. Our telecom sector, if I'm not mistaken, contributed 18% to GDP last year, if I'm not mistaken. Now, a person who oversaw those sorts of reforms in 1999 and was still contributing that much to GDP, that sector is still contributing that much to GDP in the year 2022. Shouldn't we be banking on that vision? Shouldn't we be trusting that sort of vision? Three, I will tell you, 2019, he's been saying, the examples will just keep flowing. We've been talking about this thing where Nigeria's, let me tie this to debt. What is Nigeria's biggest expenditure in the budget at the moment? Your biggest expenditures are debt servicing, fuel subsidy, right? Once you take off that, you now have an expenditure profile that services government. Recurrent expenditure. Atiku Abubakar has said, okay, you know what? Let us remove subsidies. He's the only candidate who has boldly committed to subsidy removal in this election cycle. He's the only one. He's the only candidate who has said, look at NNPC. Doesn't work. NNPC contributed nothing to government coffers last year. From February to the end of the year, nothing. Sell it. And don't sell it in a hidey manner where you're, in a clandestine manner. Just take it and put it on the floor of the stock exchange. Let who wants to buy publicly. Let Nigerians see it transparently. Why is it good to sell NNPC? It's non-functional. Last year, the government spent, in 2021, the government spent $1.5 billion on turnaround maintenance for the Port Harcourt refinery. Yet, that is turnaround maintenance alone. I'm not talking salaries, I'm not talking emoluments, I'm not talking pensions. And yet, you don't have one refined barrel of crude oil from that refinery. Why are you funding it? Why are you servicing it? Sell it. Once you take into consideration the policy propositions that the PDP has put in front of Nigerians, and Nigerians must do this for our own good. We must do this. Yes, the fancy sounding endorsements, Pandev has endorsed, Middle Belt Forum has endorsed, and President Olusegun Obasanjo has endorsed. At some point, Nigerians have to tune out all that and sit down and say, whose policies will best serve me? What we must do is find out how do we align our interests, the interests that will give us jobs, the interests that will open our farms, the interests that will educate our children, the interests that will give us access to healthcare, the interests that will reform the police. Whose plans will best do that? And then once you've asked yourselves that question and you've answered it, I'm confident to challenge everybody to ask that question. I'm confident to do that. Because once you sit down and remove everything else, and you look at the plans, and you look at the promises, and you look at the policies in front of you, there is one inescapable conclusion. Atiku Abubakar is the best man to lead this country in a post-Buhari Nigeria. Best man.
Okay, Elabala, we've heard all you had to say. A lot of points made there, a whole lot of points. But for some to, Could you appraise the campaign now of your candidate, Atiku Abubakar, what he has done so far on the campaign train? Because he's been in Dubai, he's been in Nigeria, but we all know he's trying to be president of Nigeria, not Dubai. So why hasn't he been on ground consistently, campaigning consistently?
Thank you very much. I must say clearly what Atiku said before, that he has not spent more than 1 month in Dubai. So this Dubai
When
thing...
you say 1 month, is it in the last 1 year or at a stretch? Okay.
At a stretch.
Okay, please go on.
The reason why I'm saying this is, this Dubai narrative is just a creation to downplay the points Atiku is making on his campaign trail. My brother Ilemona has told you so much about his plans. Atiku has been busy going from state to state. He has not insulted anyone. He has not fired back at Bola Tinubu, even though Tinubu goes on different platforms to say nonsense about him. He has focused on saying the things he will do if elected. Restructuring, devolution of power, cutting cost of governance. On cutting cost of governance, I must underline that is different from saving money. Saving money is a personal thing. It's about who the person is, like the Labour candidate who said who saves Peter Obi, who saves money. Who saved money in my state, Anambra, is a personal thing. He saved money. It's not an institutional reform thing. Cutting cost of governance is an institutional reform thing. Atiku said, I will cut cost of governance through devolution of powers. Peter Obi saved money in Anambra by saving money. The next governor can come and squander the money. But when you cut cost of governance through institutional reform, whoever comes next, the same thing follows. Devolution of powers. Does he have what it takes to devolve power? Yes. Does PDP have what it takes to devolve power? Yes. So we have to be careful not to be carried away by the Dubai talk. We have to be careful. Nigerians have to be careful. And remember that we have one common enemy in this election, the incumbent party, who have driven us all down the drain. In the southeast now, you can no longer have functions. People hold weddings in the cities because they're afraid of going home. Buhari did that under his administration. That was what happened. So we must make sure that this party lives. And when we are considering that this party will leave, we must be careful because the party is very cunning. APC will always throw jabs like Dubai, he's this one, but they will never tell you how they took dollar from 200 to 700 and something now. They will never tell you how the fuel price is now almost 400. They will never tell you that. So Nigerians must focus on what they are feeling. Something I always say, when we go to the ballot February 25th, take your frustrations with you. Remember how you fared in the past 7 to 8 years now. Remember what is happening. Remember the businesses you lost. Remember the people you lost. Everything is bad. The indices are bad. Unemployment has risen 100%, over 100%. I think 200% from 11 to 33% now. It has increased over 200% in just 8 years. So we must be careful.
If you and to quickly chip in on this,
we must be very careful with these things. So let's leave all these rhetorics of he went to Dubai for a week or he traveled. At least we know he's in Dubai, and we know he has a house in Dubai. Bola Ahmed Tinubu travels, and everybody will be questioning where he went to, whether he went to treat himself or he went to check. Do you understand? We have to be careful about this. I
want to bring you back a little bit. We were talking about, both of you have spoken about the economy, which worries me a lot for Nigeria. And I've heard a lot of the problems from different candidates. And I've also read the manifesto, and I've seen the manifesto of your candidate. This administration is going to leave the next president and the next generation with a 77 trillion debt. how does your candidate plan to fix this? Cutting cost of governance. We're already borrowing to pay salaries and to pay bills. Yes. How do they plan? And I'll let both of you answer that as we wrap up. So let's start with you, then Ilmona. How does your, yes, let's start with Somto. But if you want him to answer it, fine. But
no,
there's
it's good. It's good.
That which we'll be paying for. And we have 3 minutes, so both of you have 1 minute each. How does your candidate and party plan to fix this?
How he plans to fix cost of governance?
Not cost of governance. These are debt.
Nigeria's economy and Nigeria's debt crisis.
Very simple. Very simple. My brother Ilemon already pointed out that during the military, after the military, Nigeria inherited, the Obasanjo Atiku administration inherited a terrible debt. The DMO office under the vice president, former vice president Atiku Abubakar's office, cleared that debt. So there is experience here in clearing debts. About economy, when Atiku has said that he wants to champion privatization, he wants to bring in private sector, he wants to break government monopoly on different enterprise so that people can prosper, so that private sector can create employment. He has done this before.
1 minute.
Sorry.
Number of things.
1 minute.
One, restructure as much of the debt as you can. Restructure it. If you can achieve debt forgiveness, achieve it. These are propositions. 1. 2, privatize. Failing government assets that will be better run by the private sector. 3, run a private sector-led, market-driven economy that brings private sector players, and then by so doing, creating jobs, creaming taxes, increasing government revenue. 4, remove government from as many spaces as possible. Involve the private sector. So if you're involving private sector in infrastructure development, for instance, that means you're not going to be having to borrow for infrastructure, right? 5, remove subsidy. It has to go. We have to tell ourselves that truth, that the money that we spend on subsidy will be better spent on social services, health, education, and so on and so forth. 6, educate your way out of poverty. Educate your way out of that. It is when we remodel our education systems that we're going to have people who are going to earn money, who are now going to pay taxes, that are going to increase government revenue, that are now going to pay off debts.
I think this is a good place to be.
Last point, grow the economy. You cannot, nobody has ever saved their way out of poverty. Yes. The way to grow, the way to resolve poverty, the way to resolve debt is to earn more, grow the economy.
Thank you very much. I think they should be running for election because we tend to hear more from the likes of you than our candidates, which I think is quite disappointing. But brilliant submissions from your partners, from both of you on your candidates. And for our viewers at home, that's how much we can take on today's episode. But we will be having several conversations, and we will also bring them back in the next couple of weeks. Next week, we do hope to have representatives of the APC who we have invited, and in some cases don't show up. But we try to make this as balanced as possible. However, PVC collections are ongoing, and it would close in a couple of weeks. And so you have basically a couple of weeks to pick up your PVC. INEC is also now giving out PVCs over the weekend, so absolutely no excuse. The point is for Nigerians to choose their president and their senators and their governors. It's not up to any structure. It is up to you, but we always advise and encourage people to remain tolerant. The fact that someone isn't supporting your candidate doesn't mean the person should be called all sorts of names. So remain tolerant. Our episodes are also on YouTube. You can check We Can Show NG on YouTube. You can also follow us on social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at We Can Show NG. You can follow me at Andy Maliki on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can follow Didi
at Didi_ on Instagram and Twitter.
Thank you very much, Ilemona and Somto. We'll bring you back before the elections proper and see how it goes, and maybe a review after the election. And to our viewers at home, do have a very happy New Year. Stay peaceful, stay safe, and we'll see you next weekend.
Bye.
Stay blessed.